there's two ways to think about it. Either there's money going as licensing fees, which happens when frames are made under license. Like Christian Dior frames are not made by Christian Dior. They're made by a company that's licensed to make Christian Dior frames.
Mm, mm,
So, and they pay a licensing fee for every Christian Dior frame. Christian Dior get a cut of that. So that's one option. And that drives the price up. The second option is you've got frames that are, you know, handmade or there's a high level of human involvement in their creation. And that might be something like Varney or something along those lines, or the Frank Seed that I'm wearing. And then they're priced to match the workload that goes into them.
mm.
Now, how do you compare that to frames that are like those cheaper ones, the iCraft ones that I showed you? And the differences are if they're made in a high-end manufacturing, especially the Varney ones, then they are tumble polished, the acetates. And tumble polishing means they're put inside a tumble wheel, which has got bits of timber and other polishing parts in it, and they roll around in that. Now, that's how they've always polished frames, but that's not how all frames are polished because they also use an acid bleach or an acid etch polish as well, and that's often commonly used in Asian manufactured frames. I won't say all of them, but a lot of the ones that are in Asia are these acid etched. And how do you know the difference? You don't know the difference straight away, but you know the difference in a year or 18 months' time because the acid etched ones lose their polish and they get chalky.
Okay.
Whereas the luxury ones, the ones that have been tumble polished, and how long do they tumble polish them for? They might be 5 days, 7 days, 14 days, etc. The longer the polish, the deeper the polish and the deeper the shine, and the longer it lasts. And you might have frames that you've been wearing um, for 5 years that have still got a shine and a polish.
Mm,
That's the difference in quality. So when I sell quality glasses, that's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the detail of manufacturing, how well they make them, et cetera, et cetera. Whether they use rivets in their construction or they use reinforced construction or whether they're sensible, whether they use acetate, which is cotton acetate, which is actually comes from cotton cellulose, so a waste product or a byproduct from cotton production, or whether they come from castor oil. So there are plastics that we made that are bioacetate, which are made from castor oil. Some of those Mark Vincent frames that I put up are bioacetate,
mm,
and or are they injection molded plastic, which is some of the Nikes and some of the Oakleys and things. They're all injection molded plastic. They're pure petrochemical stuff, and they're plastics that are injected into a mold and then that's snapped out. Do they last as well? Well, they're not always as resilient. It depends on the design of the frame. There are frames we looked at in the Nike range recently that I wouldn't buy because had a weak point, and I was showing a student optometrist that I had with me how these are risky and I wouldn't buy them. And guess what? I looked at the sample in the guy's tray, and there's cracks exactly where I said there were going to be cracks before I picked up the frame. And the guy said, "Oh, are there cracks in those?" And I said, "Yep." I
mhm,
said, "That's why we won't stock this frame."
mm.
And he goes, "Oh, really? I haven't seen that at all," which I think's probably hasn't seen it on his sample, and he wouldn't get to see the warranties going through. But it's the thing that I look at. I look at things critically when I buy them. So stuff that I buy so they're not going to be likely fail points. Do I get it right all the time? No, we had a frame recently that broke over and over again. I will never buy that frame again. Just lesson learned. Um, but even the cheap stuff, there's good cheap and there's bad cheap. And the good cheap is just head and shoulders above the bad cheap. And we look at frames and some of the models in the same range might be proper acetate and you can heat them and bend them, and other ones in the same range are chalky and then brittle, and if you try and heat them and bend them they crack. It's just terrible. And we see good and bad stuff coming from the chains too. Like I've seen poor quality in a designer label brand name frame that I won't say, but I've seen stuff that's terrible, and I've seen other stuff that's actually pretty good, and I've seen other things that are pretty ordinary, and I've seen other things that are good. So it's a mixed bag. And it's the same with us, but because I do my own buying, I don't put in the stuff that I don't like. I don't put in the stuff that doesn't feel good. I don't put in the stuff that's got poor quality. I pick and choose what I have on my shelf, and I can do so discerningly at any price bracket.